Go, 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 go. Testing my stream audio. That's interesting. So I think the audio's fine. All right. That's a problem. Nope, I think we're okay here. We're going live. Come on. Come on, come on. All right, so I believe we are live now. Ladies and gents, welcome to the Friday Edge Q&A, where we handle your questions and comments every Friday. We are the Edge team. I am Kylan. I am a developer for Edge, and I'm joined by our chief architect, William Swanson.
Hello, good to meet you.
Yep, so for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, what we do is we take your questions and comments live on the air. We like to interact with our users and our audience. And also during the course of the week, if you contact us, give us an idea of what sort of questions and comments you want answered on the show. Every Friday we are here, and we do just that. So where should we start off, William? I guess maybe some of the more recent stuff that we've done before we get on to the questions and comments?
Sure, that sounds great to me.
Yes, so I guess one place we could start off was with actually my recent travels. I'm trying to think when this was. I think was this last weekend or the weekend before? But essentially, I went out to a conference in Las Vegas. There are different names for the conference, but one of them is the Gentlemen's Club Conference. The other one is the Exotic Dancers Conference. We actually partnered up with Doug Scribner and the rest of the team at Vault Logic, and what they do is they, how would I say this? They manufacture and they supply Bitcoin ATMs, which is still a very, I guess you could say, very fresh or very new industry. There's not that many Bitcoin ATMs out there. If you're not sure whether that's true or not, just ask yourself how often you see a Bitcoin ATM somewhere other than a Bitcoin conference. So what they were trying to do is target the sort of, how would I say, adult entertainment industry, because a lot of those places, they do need ATMs for obvious reasons. If you're talking about exotic dancers, just think about dollar bills. And this was happening out in Las Vegas. So that's kind of the center of adult entertainment, at least in the United States. Obviously, it was very hot at this time of year, but in general, you can kind of stay in the casinos. But I would say that the experience, it was a pretty good experience. It was a little interesting being the only Edge team member out there. Usually, we're rolling pretty deep when we go to conferences. I know you've been to a few of the conferences. I know you were, where was it, San Jose last year?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it can actually usually be pretty fun. But the team at Vault Logic, they had quite a few people there, and I felt like they were doing pretty well. They were getting they were talking to a lot of people, and I don't know if there were any deals that came out of it. That's their business, right? But it was kind of interesting because usually when we go to Bitcoin conferences, we get people coming up to us. They're all sorts of interested in Bitcoin and wallets and stuff like that.
Why don't we have an ICO yet?
I know, exactly, right? So everyone's really plugged in. At this conference, it was not like that at all. I think people who are not really, how do I say it? People who have not kept up with all the details of cryptocurrency, all they hear on the news is about the volatility of the price. So I was actually surprised because there were quite a few people who would come up and they would be almost like, oh, Bitcoin, ooh, like they were almost scared of it. And I don't know whether that's because of volatility or because, I don't know, some sort of legal regulations, stuff like that. Maybe they're doing stuff. I don't know. I don't even want to come up with ideas. But it was definitely very different from our typical conference where everyone's interested in cryptocurrency. Everyone knows what's going on, stuff like that. So in general, it's kind of interesting going to Vegas because if you go there for work, it's kind of like you're a tourist, but you do, how would I say this? If you're not there just to have fun and party and go to the casinos and stuff, then you start to realize there's a little bit of a separation between like the locals and the, how would I say it, and the tourists. And when you start getting kind of like a, how would I say, when you start to get an idea of what that looks like, I don't like what I see, if that makes sense. A lot of people out in Vegas, I mean, almost all of them are employed by the, how would I say, the hospitality industry. So you get a lot of people there who are not really academic, I guess you could say.
Right, right.
But it is a fun place to go if you're just looking for fun. So
I actually had a buddy who lived in Las Vegas, and he was a mechanic, and he worked at a helicopter ride place, and he was fixing their helicopters.
Right. Probably people going to the Grand Canyon or something like that.
Something
maybe.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of. It was an interesting conference. Yeah, we'll see. I probably won't be back to Vegas for a while, but I am interested in doing more conferences. Obviously, I prefer the ones that are cryptocurrency related, like directly related, right?
It's interesting though, because when you talk to people who aren't in Bitcoin, and I've talked to a lot of people who are friends, family, whatever. Most people are like, I've heard about it, but I don't really. And you offer like, hey, tell you what, I'll set you up with Edge Wallet if you want $5 free crypto.
Right.
And half of them won't even take the offer. They're like,
exactly, it's strange.
Get that stuff off my phone. It's like I don't want to deal with it. It's too scary.
So why do you think that is?
I think there's a lot of news,
right,
and nobody knows what's going on, right? So you see this thing in the news, it's got positive things, it's got negative things. You're like, I don't know what this is. And then it's, nobody wants to touch something that's scary. There's that barrier of familiarity, right?
Yeah. And I feel like, okay, either in the news, either people are hearing about the volatility or they're hearing something like, oh,
got hacked.
There's some virus out there, some malware, something Bitcoin, ransomware.
Yeah.
So maybe people are thinking, oh no, that's how you get viruses on your phone or on your laptop or whatever.
Well, I think the other thing is there's a perception that it's difficult, right? Like you say, I'm going to install Bitcoin on your phone. Like, oh, that sounds like it's going to take an hour, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to install this app, set up a username and password, and I just send you money. Like the idea that it could be that simple is kind of, nobody gets that, right? They're like, oh boy, I got to learn all this cryptography stuff and wear a sweater or the hoodie and go on the dark web. Like you don't actually have to do that. But if you don't know what it involves, it seems like it's going to be a daunting process.
I'm glad you mentioned the dark web because I have some friends who've never really been on it. And I got like a call on the weekend, like a couple of weekends ago. And they're like, hey, so like, how do you get onto this dark web? I want to like show my buddy. They're like, so like, is there like a URL? It's like, no, you need like a specific browser. There are URLs, but no one knows them by heart, and like it's kind of funny. It's this thing of intrigue. For me, I'll be honest, I've been on it enough times, like I know what it looks like. But for most, I'm a technical guy. I am a web developer, so things related to the web I tend to explore.
Right.
But most people aren't like that, I guess.
For a lot of people, you show them something new, it's like, oh, that's scary. I don't want to deal with that. That's just basic human psychology, right?
Right.
If you're a primitive human in the woods 10,000 years ago, your survival depends on not going into the cave where there could be bears, right? Stick to what you know.
Yeah. All right, so let's see here. We got some questions we can go over here. Oh, we can start off with a poll. Should we go over the poll?
So Edge did a poll on our Twitter, and we said, what crypto do you spend most frequently for day-to-day transactions? Which is kind of something that we care about because we are a wallet that's a mobile wallet. It's not a Trezor. It doesn't sit in your vault like for storage for decades. We are... Well, you could use Edge to store money for long periods of time. There's nothing wrong with that. But our main focus is something you use. Yeah, because it's on your phone. It's with you where you go. So that's very relevant to us. So the options were Dash, Digibyte, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash.
Right.
And Digibyte got 40%.
There you go, 40%. So... obviously, the first thing that stands out. Do we want to go over the second one as well?
So number 1 was Digibyte, number 2 was Bitcoin, number 3 was Bitcoin Cash, and actually number 4 was Dash.
Yeah, 39%, 31%, 21%, and 9%. So we also asked it again because Twitter only lets you pick 4 options. So the second time around is XRP, Litecoin, Monero, and Vertcoin. XRP got 75%, Litecoin 15%, Monero 5%, and Vertcoin 5%. So obviously the thing that sticks out at both of these results is that, okay, this is not the most scientific way to get. Essentially, we're pulling our user base. And even then...
actually, no, not even our user base. We're pulling our Twitter followers.
Yeah, excuse me. Our Twitter followers, exactly. And, people respond how they respond. A lot of the times they want to get attention, but I don't know. For some of this stuff... maybe people are using them fairly often. I do wonder with XRP, is that what they are trying to target, day-to-day transactions? I always thought they were trying to target more bank-related stuff.
So I don't really know what XRP is for. I understand that it's got a really cool protocol that can have multiple assets on the chain, or not a chain. It's not technically a chain anyway. It's not even but it's a cool protocol. Let's call it that.
Right.
They can have multiple assets, and that it could be a replacement for the legacy banking system. You could replace Swift with it. You could use it to do a lot of cool things. But what is XRP for? XRP is the currency that the company that built Ripple has issued. Is it like the settlement base pair layer? Like, I don't know why you need it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones too where I think you can use it and get really low transaction fees, but I don't know anyone who's trying to like integrate it in point of sale.
Right. Like,
and it doesn't seem like that's ever been what they're trying to do, if I'm being honest.
When I go online to buy things with crypto, 90% of the time, well, maybe not 90, maybe 50% of the time, it's either Coinbase or BitPay.
Right.
And both Coinbase and BitPay
do not support Ripple.
They don't take
or
Ripple.
XRP.
I mean, they take Bitcoin, they take Bitcoin Cash.
Right.
So if I'm going to buy something, it's mostly going to be one of those two. And I don't see options usually to pay with Dash or Digibyte. Now, some places like VPN.
I think Dash is doing better, though, especially if you're in like New Hampshire. I know they're supposedly pretty dominant up in New Hampshire. Obviously, that's a specific area, but
well, if that was true, then we don't have very many people from New Hampshire in this poll here because it seems very small. I've never seen, maybe I've been looking for it, but I don't really see Digibyte or XRP as payment options.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to buy something shady, or not shady, but like VPS service providers, right?
Right.
VPS is designed to increase your internet anonymity. So they would like to be able to pay with an anonymous currency. And a lot of VPS providers will take Monero because it's anonymous.
Right.
So that makes sense. I don't know where I would go to spend XRP to buy something.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if these polls are the most scientific, but they're a reflection of our user base.
Which is good that we support
our
these.
audience.
It's good that we support these. So hey, people out there, if you know where I can spend XRP or Digibyte or other currencies on things, let us know. I'm interested in this. I love spending crypto. It's kind of part of what makes this whole industry fun, and I'm always interested in new ways and new places to spend it. So if people know, let us know.
It is interesting because when we do a poll like this, it does make me start thinking about something I don't normally think about. When I'm holding on to cryptocurrency, I'm not always using it for like point of sale day-to-day stuff. It's something where obviously a lot of people hold on and hope that it goes up in price.
It's speculation.
Right, that's part of it. For us, we get paid in cryptocurrency, so my paycheck comes in it, so I'll hold some. So there's always a back and forth between US dollars and cryptocurrency. Try to keep as much in cryptocurrency as I can, but you can't always do that to pay your bills. With volatility the last 8 months or so, you would have gotten fleeced if you kept it all in cryptocurrency anyway. But this does beg the question of, okay, so that's our audience, our Twitter followers. So which ones do you use most often for transacting?
So I use Bitcoin a lot because BitPay. If I had the option to use BitPay in Edge, and we're working on that bug,
Right.
Then I would use BitPay with Bitcoin Cash. I think that would be my preferred combination because they have the lower fees.
Right.
And then the little thing that people don't realize, when you send money to somebody, they then have to take those funds, consolidate them, and send them out to pay whoever they're paying, right? They can send them to the exchange or whatever. So if you're on a coin that has higher fees, then not only are you paying a high fee to send the money to that person, they have to pay a high fee when they then consolidate the funds and send them to the exchange or whatever.
Right.
So BitPay actually charges, I'm not sure what it is today. I haven't spent anything recently, but it's like 10 cents, 5 cents or something like that for Bitcoin transactions, whereas for Bitcoin Cash it's zero because it's effectively zero on the fees for that chain.
Right.
So there's a reason to actually prefer it if you're using it frequently.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think. So I use a shift card with Coinbase, and so some people don't consider that a true transacting Bitcoin because technically the vendor usually isn't actually receiving Bitcoin. Right. They're immediately cashing out to fiat. But I mean, if we're talking like, how would I say it? Like we have a little snack bar in our Edge office where you can pay with crypto, and that we've done that to try to encourage ourselves to actually use our app more. That way we can see if there are bugs, see if there are specific currencies that are working or not working the way that they should. And I always find myself using Monero because for starters, it's not easy for me to cash in and out like it is with Ethereum or like Bitcoin. So I tend to hold it. And where do I hold it? On my phone, which makes it really convenient for me to send small amounts here and there. And recently, the transaction fees have not been that bad. In the past, there were times where they were pretty bad, but now it's like 20 cents or something like that.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And they have, I think, something called bulletproofs coming out, I think, later in the fall. So it should drop the transaction.
Monero's getting bulletproofs?
Yeah, they are. They've been talking about it for about a year now. And I think they're at the point where it's going to be officially released this fall. At least that's my understanding of it.
Nice. So for those who don't know, bulletproofs are a more efficient way to have a currency where you don't know what the amounts are,
right?
But you can still prove that no money was created or destroyed.
Right.
So but they're much more efficient than what Monero is currently using today.
Correct. All right.
So that should make it a lot more efficient. That's good news.
That is very good news. Yeah. Monero is one of those currencies that in general is always working on the right stuff, I feel like.
So interesting story about spending crypto.
Okay.
The very first place I ever spent crypto, I actually mined some Bitcoin using my jalapeno miner from Butterfly Labs back in the day.
Oh my, Butterfly Labs.
Butterfly Labs, right? They were the notorious ones who like kept all the equipment. They mined with it. Like you're very lucky to like most people who bought equipment never actually got recipient of it. So I was very lucky to actually have a machine.
Yeah.
And I mined with it for a couple of months. I had a little bit of Bitcoin. So I went to this meetup. The first meetup I'd ever been to was at a pizza place, and I bought pizza with Bitcoin. So it's like very symbolic.
Yeah, you got your own little pizza story.
Yeah.
Where was the pizza place at?
It was up in North County, up in, I think it was Carlsbad or Oceanside.
Makes me wonder what pizza place it was.
That's where I'm from.
They don't do it anymore?
They don't take it anymore, no.
Yeah.
It was Spirito's Italian Diner.
Yeah, things started picking up last year, and you're like, oh, you think to yourself, oh, wow, maybe Bitcoin and cryptocurrency will become, more ubiquitous faster. But then once things cool off, you're like, no, this is a long game.
That was back in 2013.
Yeah.
And back in 2013, it was like we had 1 or 2 places that took it, and we were up to like 10 places that would take it. There was like a Mexican restaurant, there was a cafe, all kinds of places. And I think what happened is 2015, 2016, we had the slump.
Yeah. And
then we had the high fees, right? So we had the slump followed by high fees, and the other altcoins like Dash weren't really established by that time, right? Or Bitcoin Cash wasn't even existing back then. So there was nowhere else to go but Bitcoin, and that just kicked everybody out. Everybody who was using it for transactions just, we can't deal with this. The volatility has killed us, and so So anyway, that's where I met Paul.
Oh, okay. This is up in Carlsbad you met him.
Yeah, so he had gone to the Bitcoin meetup. I'd hung out at the meetup, and it was like outside, the restaurant was already closed, like the last couple stragglers hanging around, and I meet this guy, and he's like, oh, what do you do? And well, I'm a programmer. Do you know Android? I'm like, yeah, I know Android. And he's like, oh, I might have a project.
I might have a project,
like,
yeah.
Hey, can you have a business card? So I give him my business card, and then a couple weeks later, he's like, hey, can I call you for an interview? I think I'm starting a cryptocurrency wallet. I'm going to call it Airbits.
You're going to call it Airbits. That's so funny.
So that's actually
the birth of an idea.
That's how. Way back in 2013, like December. So it was January 2014 that our company was founded, and that's when we really kicked off the project.
Yeah, what were you doing before that, work-wise? I mean, I assume something related to development, right?
So I was working at a firm that was doing Android kernel stuff. So we were working with the Linux kernel, doing like embedded Linux distributions for like sonar tracking systems. It was like very much like it's like a fish finder. It was on a boat, right?
Right.
And it runs Linux, and it has this GUI on it that has where the fish are and all that stuff. And the build of Linux that ran on that thing had a bunch of custom patches for their hardware.
Right.
And we were responsible for maintaining and applying all that stuff.
Okay, got it.
So that's what I was doing. It's very, very boring.
Yeah, it is interesting how adoption a lot of the time seems to follow price to a certain extent, right? Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, this thing's going up in value. I want more of it. Let me accept it. But when that means when it's down.
So that was my little historical story for this.
Yeah, that was what, 2012, 2013?
2013, December 2013.
Early stuff.
Yeah.
See, I mean, I was like, I already was messing around with Bitcoin in those time periods, but I was living in Phoenix at the time, and it was just, I don't even know where I was. I don't even know if there were any Bitcoin meetups. You know what I mean? It was so early that it just wasn't there yet. And the idea of even I mean, it's cool being able to work for a company that's related to it, because even last year, finding a company in your area that actually works in cryptocurrency is pretty rare, you know. So
I actually learned about Bitcoin even years before that, like 2011 or 2009 or some way early time. But it was at a time when the only way to do it was to wire money to Japan to get it into Mt. Gox.
Mt. Gox, yeah.
So I didn't bother wiring money to Japan because that sounded like too much work, and I don't even know how this thing works in the first place.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until 2013 that I really got involved in it.
Yeah, I think.
So I'm kicking myself like, man, if I only had bought back when it was $1, because I learned about it when it was $1.
You know, everyone says the same thing. They wish they bought more, but, you know, no one ever, I don't know. I haven't met someone who's like, yeah, I bought just the right amount, you know? Like, that just doesn't exist. All right, let's see. What else we got? Oh, so this was a question that one of my, I think it was at the meetups, they were kind of asking me about this, and it had me thinking. So our team is somewhat local, meaning people, we have like an office, and everyone, not everyone, most of the people work or live in San Diego County. But we do have some people remote. So and maybe this would be a good question for Paul as well, but what do you think the challenges are for having a local team like most companies versus one that has a remote factor to it? I mean, you've been at the company longer than I have.
So I feel like you definitely need to see people. I mean, this is my opinion, right? I feel like I definitely need to see people in person in order to have that sort of,
right.
You just can't have that high bandwidth, like we're going to stand at the whiteboard and hash this out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Some of those design meetings just need to be that way.
Right.
We have one guy, Alan, who was here, who was last week, right?
I think so.
Yeah. He lives in the Bahamas.
Yep.
And he flies in once a month for a week so that he can work from here, and then he goes back to the Bahamas.
Right.
And I feel like during that week, that's when we said, like, we need to sit down and talk about this. Okay, we'll do it next week when you're in town because that's easier.
Right.
We have another guy who is in the Philippines, and honestly, we never talked to him. We have no idea what he's working on. His bugs show up in the bug tracker, and then eventually patches show up, but it's like no one really knows. He doesn't, you know, it's like very difficult to coordinate that. Yeah,
and I remember even when we were doing video conferences with him more often, it was still difficult. Half the time, you guys can't make it, or he forgets, or you forget. So it is a bit of a challenge, but it's not that easy to find people who are interested in cryptocurrency and have the right skill set as well in your local area. If you live in San Francisco or something, then yeah, they're all over the place. But they're probably asking tons of money. You know, if you're in LA, maybe, but most mid-sized cities or smaller it'll be an very uphill battle. Yeah.
So I would say I think there's a great value in being able to talk to your coworkers. I mean, I'll come into the office and no one will be around because, you know, it's early or whatever, or late. And it's like, oh man, why'd I come in? There's no point in being here if there's no one else around. Right. It's like you want to have other people there so that you can talk to people, ask questions, and, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah. I think everyone likes being able to work. I think if you want the best combination, it's have them in the office once or twice a week. The rest, you know, if they want to work from home, as long as there is that trust. You know, if it's their first week and they're asking if they can work from home, then maybe they're not the best fit, right? All right, let's see here. You want to talk about lightning towers? Do we have enough time?
So this is a question. I'm not sure who asked this question. We don't have an attribution here, but this was a question that was apparently asked of us by somebody.
Thank you, somebody.
And it said, what is a lightning watchtower and how many users can a lightning watchtower protect at a time? So first of all, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin's a digital peer-to-peer cryptocurrency thing. You can pay people. There is a problem with it, and that's that blocks on Bitcoin, BTC, are locked at 1 megabyte. So you have a scalability issue. There's other problems. It's not instant. So you have this idea of let's not actually pay each other Bitcoin. I'm actually going to pay you not a dollar bill. I'm not going to hand you cash.
Right.
But instead I'm going to hand you a slip of paper that says, I owe you $1 bill. In a month, I will pay you.
Right.
And then you take that And now, if I was doing that with a piece of paper, you'd be like, he may not honor that piece of paper,
Right,
right?
right.
Because the paper, he could just forget that he issued it and say I forged it, whatever, right?
Right.
But with cryptocurrency, because it is crypto, I can make this IOU with a cryptographic proof that I will pay you in a month. Like I'm not just BSing. I've actually got math backing it up saying that I will do this. And so this kind of IOU system, I can hand you an IOU for $1, and then you can take another IOU saying, well, the IOU gave me, I owe you 50 cents back. And then we can kind of go back and forth, back and forth. And we can exchange value thousands of times, millions of times.
Right.
And at the end of the month, we settle up, and then we're exactly where we need to be.
Right.
And if you wanted to, you could say at the end of the month, well, we don't want to settle up. We'll keep the game going, and it can continue forever.
Right.
So that's kind of the basic idea of the Lightning Network. We don't actually use Bitcoin because Bitcoin has these problems. Instead, we're going to send these IOUs back.
Right. Second layer.
Yeah. Here's the problem with that IOU system. The cryptographic stuff does work, but an issue is I can send you an IOU for $1, and then you send me one back for 50 cents.
Right.
At the end of the month, you say, well, I liked it when I had $1. I don't like it when I've given up my 50 cents. I'm going to broadcast that older $1 state. That's an old state. It's out of date, right? Because you've given me 50 cents since then. But it's still valid because the math still works. It's just kind of not the latest
Older,
one.
right.
Yeah. So there's this risk with the Lightning Network that somebody can publish an old IOU and claim more money than they really have.
Right.
So what the Lightning Watchtower does is it monitors the network and sees if anybody broadcasts an old channel state, it'll broadcast the newest channel state.
So how does it know the newest channel state? It's constantly looking for changes in state.
So as you and me do this back and forth, I keep updating the Watchtower like, this is what it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to be. So the Watchtower is an agent working on my behalf.
Right.
And then if somebody tries to broadcast an out-of-date channel state, then it can stomp on top with the newest one. Or I'm not quite sure if it's either the newest one or if it's like a kill switch that like returns all the money to the original person.
That's what I was wondering, if there's a penalization or something.
There may
like
be
that.
a penalty, or it may just be the make it right. I'm not quite sure how that setup works.
They might not even have it finalized yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there's other things, like there's another version called L2, which doesn't need all this stuff because it uses different math. Like so it's kind of in flux. But the basic concept is it's an agent that sits on your behalf, and you keep it up to date with what's going on in your channel. And if it sees any funny business, it fixes it.
Right.
That way, even if your phone is offline, it's in your pocket, it doesn't have internet cell service, someone's still watching the network to make sure that this funny stuff doesn't happen.
Right.
So it's a problem with the Lightning Network is you always have to be online, or you have to have somebody else who is working on your behalf who's always online to make sure it works correctly. Otherwise, you could lose money.
Right. So is there revenue that can be generated from being a Watchtower, or do you think it's something where there might be other non-monetary incentive? Or
so if Edge were to implement Lightning into our wallet, we would probably run the Watchtowers for our customers.
Right.
That would probably be a way we would implement it. And in that sense, we would have a non-monetary incentive to provide this service to our customers, because customers want Lightning and we provide it, and we have to provide the infrastructure to make that happen.
Right.
So another example of that is right now when we go to connect Edge to the Bitcoin network, we use something called Electrum servers. Well, we run a bunch of Electrum servers because we want to have good connectivity.
Right. And then also with Electrum servers, it also makes it, they have like an API, right? So if I say, hey, this is my address, I want transactions for it, or something like that.
Right. So the Lightning Tower would have some kind of an API like, this is my channel, this is my latest state, make sure it doesn't...
submit a state, now check, verify another state that someone submitted or something like that. Let's see here.
Well, we're getting close to the half-hour mark.
Yeah. Let's, what do you think? One more?
One more question?
How much do you know about XPRV?
So the question is, how close is Edge to releasing a wallet that can import private seeds from other wallets?
Right.
So if I create a wallet in, say, what's a Mycelium? If I create a wallet in Mycelium and I want to take the wallet out and put it into Edge and have all my funds there, all my addresses, everything as if it was the exact same wallet, how close are we to doing that?
Right.
I believe that our core uses the exact same format for that import as Mycelium does. So if I had a way to put the keys into our wallet, it would just support it.
Right.
So I think if you used our SDK, you could actually do this today. Like all the features are there.
Right.
We don't have a GUI for it. We don't have like a screen where you click the buttons to type it in and validate it and show you like importing and like, okay, it's done. And what do you want to call it? You know, all that stuff. We don't have the GUI part in.
Okay.
So every month, our company has a planning meeting where everybody kind of puts forward features that people want, and we vote on what we should work on for the next month's sprint. This feature would be great if somebody were to propose it and vote on it. So if customers are interested in this, knock on our doors, and I'm pretty sure, it'll show up on the ballot.
Yeah, that's that's a constant challenge for our company. As you mentioned, our roadmap and our scheduling is fairly democratic. People propose tasks and features, and then everyone votes on it. And more or less, whatever gets the most votes pretty much gets worked on. And it's one person per vote. So there is this sort of thing where, okay, you kind of have to you have to bring up the reasons why you think something should get voted on if you actually want it to get voted on. And I think I've noticed the process works, but it doesn't work perfectly, because sometimes if people don't stress the importance or the consequences of a task getting done or not done, then people they can't vote with the proper amount of knowledge, right?
So if it's like our customers demand this of us, that's better than like, this is a cool thing. I think we should work on this, right?
Yeah, or this would help me. This would make my job easier. It's like, okay, yeah, everyone wants stuff that makes their job easier. So that is a constant challenge.
Now, how do you choose, when you have limited resources, what to work on out of the infinity of things you could work on?
Yeah.
Do we work on adding Lightning, or do we work on adding XPriv import? Those are two compelling features, and which one do we choose?
Yeah, or do we want a desktop app, or do we want to start working on other currencies or proof of stake? So there's almost
EOS support.
Like an unlimited number of features that we could add, but a limited number of resources, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that's enough for this week. As I mentioned before, we are here every Friday at noon Pacific time taking your questions and comments. So if you have any issues with our Edge wallet, which is available on both iOS and Android, then go ahead and reach out to us either on social media or at support@edge.app. Also, if you are interested in becoming one of our partners, or maybe interested in our white label wallets or Edge login feature, you can reach out to us at info@edge.app. We're also on WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack. I think we're pretty much everywhere. Just look, you can find us. So I think that's it for this week. So until next time, it's the Edge team.
All right.
Take care.
See you in the future.